when you guys talk. So
I like looking at the Zencaster. It says, Aidan, health check passed, but revealing warnings. Proceed with caution. Blake, health check passed. Michael, health check failed.
unable to record. User's
Fucking.
microphone must be properly connected and delivering an active audio signal.
It's fucking connected.
Making my way downtown. Oh shit, I gotta go get something to open loudly and start from. I'll be right back.
Oh no, it's happening. Reloading the page.
Hello? Can you say something, Aidan?
I'm saying something right now for you.
Okay, I fixed it. Say something, Blake.
Okay, friend.
Alright, it's only gonna pick up my microphone now,
Lit, dude.
All right.
I think.
All right. Well, we've been streaming this whole time, and I have 2 canned beverages. And look at that.
You're gonna crack one open. The guy's gonna be like, "Holy fuck!" And then 4 seconds later, you crack another one open.
And be like, hey guys, look who it is. It's my dog. It goes out to you, you piece of shit. No. I'll go ahead and open both cans now. There we go. That's pure stream can openage. And I'll take my loud pregame slurp.
Christ, dude.
I've made that as slurpy as possible. Okay. Are we ready, guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Presumably.
It does not inspire confidence, friend.
I'm past the point of caring.
You know, I've got an idea that we could do.
Sure.
Hit me with it.
So, yeah, we can talk about Aurelia, and then we can talk about, like, champions that each one of us mains, their matchups and power spikes and shit. And just have, like,
Okay.
this is how you played this champion, like, deal.
So yours will be like 10 minutes each, and mine will be like 30 seconds of how to play
Yeah, because
Tryndamere.
Tryndamere is S tier and he wins every match.
Right click, right click, right
So
click.
true, Frost. So true.
How don't you believe me, dude? He's so fucking OP right now.
Because you don't play him, and you've never played the Camille Tryndamere matchup.
Yeah, Camille's the best top laner in the game. She's the second best.
He's not the second. You're so dumb, Frost.
You're so wrong.
Hey, Ponderous, don't worry about it. This is the guy that thinks that that's a good Scion nerf.
You're crazy that you you didn't understand it. Your little tiny brain couldn't understand it.
No, I understood it. It just makes no sense. You know, I get what they're trying to do, but what I'm saying is that's not what makes him oppressive. The
I
E,
understand
as
that.
it exists now, makes him oppressive.
But you know what his combo is? You hit E and then it makes you immediately hit Q because they can't dodge out of it.
You know what his combo is? You hit E and then a comet falls on them, and it doesn't matter if you Q.
But if his Q does 30% less damage if you don't have it maxed, then it does matter.
No, it doesn't, because you don't even hit him with the Q. You just spit minions at him until they die.
You're
And
crazy. You're a crazy person.
I don't know, man. Support.
We'll see his win rate this patch.
Oh, I think it'll take a dip just because it takes power. I mean, it's a flat nerf, and I don't have a problem. He needed a flat nerf, but like, it is like classic Riot, like, we identified a problem and instead of solving it, we're going to go, like, okay, I've got it. You're like, I need to get to that store right over there that's across the street. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive past it, take a left, take another left, and then one more left, park and walk in the store.
You're toxic.
It's what do they do? It's like not direct problem solving at all.
It is.
This is the
They
shit
made
we
it-
need to talk about. This is
They
it.
made it. They literally made it so you got to choose. You have to choose now.
Yeah, you have to choose how many left turns you're going to make before you get out of the car and walk in the store.
I'm so tilted from you. Are we not? Let's do this other topic. Let's do this other topic.
Okie dokie.
Nerfing.
We'll start with Irelia. We'll see how that goes, and then we can go from there.
I'm triggered.
Okay. Here we go. You guys ready? We're gonna fire this thing up.
Yep.
Okay. We will do that then. Here we go. In 5, 4. Hey everybody, this is your host Wise Papa Smurf bringing you LOLA episode 186, and with me is Michael Ponderous, Sealion, technical difficulties, Largent. How are you doing, Michael?
Gang, gang, as the kids say nowadays. I want to fucking die.
I mean, granted, I'm kind of out of the loop, but do the kids really say that?
No. No,
Okay.
they don't.
I was just wondering, because I mean, if we're lit, I need to know.
What you drinking there, Blake?
I'm drinking a nice, bubbly, sparkling water with orange in it. It's delicious.
On my fucking podcast, the podcast that I
Yeah.
started
I'm doing
with
it
my
live. And
with my
me
own
is the-
blood,
is the,
sweat.
Also with us tonight is the long forgotten Aidan.
Hey guys, I'm back. As the kids say, "Liddy, liddy, come in my shitty."
Okay, I know that one's real. I don't even have to ask. I know that. So cool. We're in with the kids now. So Aidan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I thought I was banned.
No. You're just. I was flipping through like
Administrative
the
leave.
roster. On administrative leave. I was flipping through the roster. I was like, man, we need to have somebody on the show this week. Who are we gonna do? Okay, well, Michael, he's here. And then what's that old dusty stone tablet in the corner? And I looked over there and I blew some dust off of it and like cobwebs, and it just said Aidan. I was like, oh, that's right. He is on the podcast.
And you're like, "Oh right, this guy's our best, highest ELO podcaster."
Oh, highest Elo? Question mark? Since when? Since
There's
season
asterisk,
7?
There's
The season that I
asterisk,
didn't play?
for non-Tryndamere abusers.
It's like I play other shit and get to like almost Diamond 1 in season 6, and then I decide to just roll swap entirely and get to Diamond 2, and that's like, nah, you're just bad. That's like,
I'm
okay,
just saying,
sure.
you're a Tryndamere abuser, dude. But that's
Well,
all right.
Tryndamere doesn't win. I mean, Tryndamere doesn't lose any matchups in the top lane, except for Darius, Camille, Swain, Alawi, Sion, Singed, Renekton, Quinn, Nasus, Jax, Teemo. You know, but other than that, he doesn't really lose any matchups.
Oh
But he
my
wins
God.
the game against
Tom
every single
Kench,
one of those.
Jace, I mean,
He's triggered, Blake.
Ponderous, how did you
Pantheon,
manage to win any game?
Nar, Heimerdinger,
Because
Kennen,
he's actually a challenger player playing a bad character.
Are you
Ornn,
just
and
flipping
Lissandra.
through the champion roster at this point? Like,
Yeah. No, that's all the champions besides the ones that I just and Shen. Besides the champions that I just listed, he beats all of them in the top lane. Actually, S tier.
Triggered. I
By the
triggered.
way, actually S tier.
He is S tier, I think.
sweet baby Jesus, what have we done? But no, dude, Michael, don't worry about it. Whenever I get to Diamond, it's that you or Exiles carried me, and whenever you get high up in the list, it's that Tryndamere carried you.
Blake, can I stop you for a second? You didn't
Yeah.
start Zencaster.
What? God damn it! This was such a good start.
Let's just take the audio from the stream.
Yeah, we have to cut the audio from the first half of that, dude.
Fuck
Holy
it. That'll be intro. Whatever. Here we go. 5, 4. Hey everybody, welcome to League of Legends Anonymous, episode 186, take 2. Take 1 was lost because I forgot to hit start recording. Fuck. With me this week is Michael, Ponderous, Sealion, technical difficulties, Largent. I already made that joke once. It was better the first time, but I'm keeping it.
I think it really grows on you the second time that you hear it. I think it's even better, in all honesty.
Good.
Can you intro me as the non-Trinity abuser?
Sure, why not? And with me as well is Aidan, the non-Trendemir abuser, Frost.
Thanks for having me.
Wait, but I played Tryndamere before the Rageblade changes and before
upset he is.
I played him before Conqueror even came out.
You know what I'm
I
really
don't
mad about?
understand.
Is like the listeners have no idea, but Aidan just like passively planted the world's smallest seed of doubt into Michael's ego, being like, "Oh yeah, you got to Diamond 2 with Tryndamere abusing." And then Michael listed off an entire dictionary's worth of champions that beat Tryndamere in the top lane, literally one after another, started making a point, and then goes, "Oh, and Shin too." Right? And we lost that because I didn't hit fucking record. Like, classic.
I could do it again if
Sure.
you'd like to hear it.
Have
All
it.
right, so
Yeah, go for it.
I'll roleplay both people in the scenario.
Oh no.
I'm Aidan. I play Tom Kench, the #1 Tryndamere counter in the entire game. Which is true, by the way. That is the #1 Tryndamere counter in the game. But Tryndamere wins every top lane matchup, and he's S tier. And then, I mean, you know, Aidan, I respect your right to having an opinion, but I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you on this one. Because Tryndamere has a number of counters in the top lane, such as, you know, Darius, Camille, Swain, Alawi, Sion, Singed, Renekton, Quinn, Nasus at Scales, and Jax beats and Teemo, Urgot, what are the other ones? Fucking Volibear, Trundle, Tom Kench, Jace, Pantheon, Shen, Gnar, Heimerdinger, Kennen, and Ornn. So, you know, that's a couple champions that beat him. Kind of a lot of lane counters for an S tier champion to have, just in my humble opinion. But, you know, again, you're welcome to believe whatever you want, even if what you believe is fucking retarded. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Why are there so many Master and Challenger Tryndamere mains right now?
Wait, it sounds like there are two
aren't.
Aidens in here.
There's like 2 high elo Tryndamere mains. What are you talking about?
There's like
It's
4
like-
in Master tier.
It's like Siegfried. Wait, that's not even that many. It's Siegfried, fucking Boxer Pete, and Fogged, and then like maybe some other random dumbass that got there. Like that's like 4 out of like.
Are you saying
What,
random
1,000?
dumbasses can get Master tier with Tryndamere?
I'm saying I've laned against master top laners, and some of them are random dumbasses, but you know, those are the only ones that I know about.
I didn't
that's like
try
4
to
out of-
hurt your ego. I'm sorry.
But
Well,
that's like 4
to
out of
be
1,000, which doesn't even make sense.
I mean, to be
That's
fair,
not
though,
even good
Michael
statistically.
has been really dominant on like top lane this season because when he plays Tryndamere, the other person isn't allowed to abuse it.
Yeah, that's the
Oh.
only reason that I got to high elo. Because denying the enemy team from getting the pick, you know?
No, but like you gotta like at least like dropping the meme a little bit. You have to agree that Tryndamere's in a pretty good spot.
Oh, I don't think he's bad by any means. I think that he's probably an A tier top laner, but he
I just
loses
feel
way
like-
too many matchups to be considered S tier.
Yeah, that's the flaw in his kit, right? That's the thing, right? Like when you have
Sure.
dominant characters like Camille in the meta right now, it's problematic. But like I also do think he's like akin to say Nasus or Jax, where you're on a timer where past X items or X minutes into the game, I start solo killing everyone and the game's over. And I feel like that timer is very, very short with the introduction of Conqueror into the game.
You still need like 6,000 gold before you get to like the point where you can do that, because you need.
I mean, you
Berserkers,
wouldn't need
Trinity,
yeah.
or you need Tiamat, and you need Phantom Dancer and Essence Reaver. That's like
Yeah.
7,000 or 8,000 gold. which
Yeah,
I mean you can get to, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just think that I do think he's what do you want to call it, like sleeper OP is the way I would put it. I guess I'm memeing more about the S tier, like I have been for like a while. He's a character who gets fucking smashed by every top laner, right? But I do think he's way better than he ever should be as a hyper scaling late game 80 killer. You know what I mean?
Sure. I'm not
Okay.
saying he's a bad.
So
No, I'm just
Anyways,
now we've got all that out of the way. I would like to address. We've got some feedback on the show, right? And it's been pretty cool. I've been happy about receiving feedback, and one of those bits of feedback was on me, and it was fantastic. And it was that I have been loudly slurping sodas and opening cans, and then my dog has been screaming in the background, right?
not wrong.
Not incorrect. That is true. So I've been actually making. I listen to what people say, so I've been making a conscious effort to, not do those things. I actually pre-opened all my sodas before the show, and I just realized that drinking bubbly water, right, the sparkling water stuff, really makes you want to burp, like real bad, and I just like tried to suppress a burp so hard, I'm pretty sure I burped out my eyeballs. So
that's always a good feeling.
yeah, no, it's not. But I just want to let the fans know, taking it seriously, I burped out my eyeballs for you guys in your eardrums.
Did we ever end up reading the?
No, and that's what I was going to get to
reviews?
next.
Oh boy,
So-
let me find it.
So yeah, we got a review, or a couple of reviews, and I'll read the glowing one first, and then the honest one second.
Honest one. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Here, let me pull that up. But while I'm pulling that up, we had a poll going for Ashley was on the podcast last week. She did the support main deal, right? And where we talked about getting coaching, and there was a poll up on LOLA, and it was, what do you think of Ashley? Did she do a good job? How'd that go? And there was some answers, and this one was my particular favorite. It's nice to hear a female perspective on the game that's been missing from the podcast since Aidan stopped coming on.
We got every perspective covered now. I
Yeah,
can
we
be the
got it
female
all.
perspective.
We got it all.
Michael can be the boosted perspective. Blake can be the old man perspective.
Right,
the washed
right.
up
Boosted
if you will.
perspective.
It's hard playing League with arthritis. My bones are so brittle.
Five tips
Aidan.
on what you can do after your eyesight starts to go in League of Legends.
My glasses are so thick right now. Oh, shit. Where is that? Michael, do you have the review?
I have it pulled up if you want me to read it.
Yeah, why don't you read the good one, and I'll read the honest one.
We actually got another one since what we were talking about, but it wasn't
Really?
specific to me. Yeah, another
Oh,
5-star.
Well, then we'll read that one too. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so this is the first one that we got after I joined the show, and the title is Sealion, and he said this is from Kier MCA or Mick A. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but anyways, I've listened to this podcast since I began playing League about a year ago, January 2017, and this podcast is a big part of me getting to gold in my first ranked season. Early in 2017 was right when Ponderous Sealion's podcast was closing up shop. I literally checked LOL Radio for 2 months, hoping to get more episodes until I was forced to accept reality. Having Ponderous Sealion on LOLA makes an already awesome podcast skyrocket. A massive dose of blunt sarcasm and snarkiness from a fellow Texan and jungler is going to take the show to the next level. Someone needs to balance out the corny analogies from Wise Papa Smurf. Looking forward to hearing more from Ponderous Sealion in the future of LOLA. And that just, that warmed my heart, so shout outs. And then there was this
I got this
review,
one.
the
I got
other
it.
one.
I
Yeah,
got it.
please.
Okay. This one, the title is Yikes from Chad Stonecock. And Chad
Everything hurts.
Stonecock writes, not too good anymore with the recent addition. Keep in mind, that was April 2nd, right after Ponderous joined the show. So if you average out the 2-star with the 5, you've got 3.5 stars. That's better than 3.
but not as good as 4.
So yeah, the I love the title being just yikes. That's a solid burn. Ponderous actually got a lot of levity out of that one whenever we read
No,
that.
everything just hurts me. I'm in
Old
pain,
Chad
Blake.
Stonecock. All right, so we have one more. You want it, you got it, from King5913, who's actually in the chat tonight listening to the show live. Thanks, dude. Appreciate your review. This show is great. There are a lot of League of Legends podcasts out there that all give you the same information, so it really comes down to entertainment and personality, and this show has it. And these are real people. You can join their Discord, you can talk to them, you can play games with them, interact with them. Everyone has been great since I joined the community, and I hope others will join with me. Thank you, King. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad you've found a home here, and that's awesome. So thank you again for the review. I really appreciate it. It helps us with exposure, presumably. We still haven't quite broken the top, but hey, every little bit helps, and thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. And yeah, thank you all. Mr. Stonecock, I at least got a good chuckle out of yours, so thanks for that too. But okay, cool. So this show, we're going to talk about a couple of things. The first of which being the Irelia rework. Was it a success? Was it not? Is she stronger, weaker, or, is she totally broken? What's the deal with Airelia to start? So, being as Ponderous has picked up top this season, and Aidan's picked up some top. He's played, Tom Kinch and whatnot up there. Figured it'd be a good time to have a little community discussion on Airelia, right? So let's start off with, for those who haven't really experienced Airelia yet, what are the chief differences between what she could do before and what she does now?
Do you want me to get it? Because I've played about 20-something games of her, or
Yeah, shoot. I
can just
left
cover
it
changes.
open to the floor.
Sure.
So.
Cool. I'll jump in. Main difference is that her W is no longer gives you bonus true damage on hit. The bonus on hit damage was changed to her passive, and it's magic damage that ramps up the more abilities you use and at times you attack the enemy champions. Her W now gives you a window for damage reduction, and it's a hold and charge, and then it shoots out this little tendril that does damage after you release it, and it does more damage the longer you hold it. Her E, she throws out 2 blades, and then all the space between them turns into a stun field for a brief second, and it stuns everyone that's in them. And then her ult, she throws out a bunch of blades, and if they strike a target, they explode outwards and create kind of like a diamond around whoever she threw them at, and it stays there for a few seconds. And if you walk through it, you will take bonus damage and not be able to auto attack. And then I guess the one thing that I didn't mention is her marking mechanism now. Both her E and her Q is basically the same thing. Both her E and her R, if you hit them on enemy champions, they'll be marked for 6 seconds, and then if you Q to them, it refreshes your Q cooldown as if you killed a unit. So yeah, that's the main difference.
Sweet. So that being said, I thought the ult was supposed to be shaped like a spear tip. Is that what it is?
I mean, maybe I don't know if that was maybe that was the intention. It just is kind of like a diamond shaped, but you could be right on that. I never actually gave it any thought.
Sweet.
Ooh, the blades form into a spade-shaped parameter.
Is that what it says in the thing? A spade-shaped parameter?
That's how I would put it.
Yeah,
obviously.
I wouldn't call it a spear tip, for Christ's sakes. I mean, clearly it's a spade-tipped parameter, or what the
It's a diamond! Yeah, like me.
Nice.
You're so smart.
Nicely done. Okay, so that being said, so we've got a new kit versus the old kit. You ever played much Aurelia before?
I had Mastery 4 on it, but I didn't play it all that much.
No.
But I mean, I knew my way around it.
I did, and I can't really compare to where she's at now in terms of power level. I feel like the power level is way higher with her right now than what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because I played old Aurelia, and it was kind of like you had to snowball, but if you did, you could truly take over a game. but in every sense of the word, her kit was old and weaker than Fiora, who could do the same thing. Now I see
fair, I
those
think.
two champions as more distinct, and with each having their own identifiable strengths and weaknesses, that I think the kit kind of makes sense. At least she's not like a clone of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like Fiora 1.0 in the sense that you remember when Lucian and Graves kept getting compared, and it was like, well, which one's the better
Oh,
version of the same thing?
for newer players, this was before Graves got reworked. He used to have an old kit before he got reworked a couple of years ago. So if you just started playing, you would not have played with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, they used to compare those two kits because they were very similar. Like, you do a dash in, there's a bunch of burst damage, and whichever one had the most damage was the better version of that champion. And it would go back and forth for a little bit until they remade Graves. That's what Aurelia used to feel like with Fiora, is like, except Fiora always was on top. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right, because her kit was just strictly better.
yeah, it was just, in every sense of the word, a better kit. Now I don't necessarily think that's true, and I think that her power level has increased accordingly, right? Aidan, where do you put Aurelia in terms of, because I know that I cannot trust Ponderous to rank top lane champions appropriately in tier,
Because he
right?
doesn't put Tryndamere at the top, right? That's
Right.
weird.
I mean, who doesn't do that? Who are the bad matchups? Anyway, how do you rank Aurelia?
I think she's one of the best even after the nerfs, and they nerfed her pretty hard. They took a ton of damage off her ultimate this patch, 8.8. But I still think she's one of the better duelists. She has a pretty weak early game. That's her only real glaring weakness. But if you can get past say the first 5 levels of laning phase, holy Christ, dude, her kit just takes over games. It's like a nightmare to play against as AD carries, as bruisers. She kind of gets dicked by tanks until mid to late game. But she's actually insane, I think.
Okay. See, I felt the same way, but it's always in the sense that when a new champion takes over the game, you're like, oh fuck, that champion is broken, right? But I felt like she's kind of in the sense that Zoe was broken. Same kind of deal, right? No, she actually really just legit was broken, and that's why they stripped so much damage. Do you think the changes that have been made actually affect what's the problem parts of her kit?
Real quick, let me interject that I've played a decent amount of Irelia, and I think that the difference between when Irelia was broken and when Zoe was broken was that Zoe could do her damage safely from over 1,000 units away. That was the issue with Zoe. Whereas with Irelia, even if she has a shit ton of damage, you have to be in melee range to deal most of it. To deal 80% of your burst, you're going to have to be in melee range is the main difference for me. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
No, I definitely do want to have that discussion. Is where do you honestly feel like she's? I mean, you've played a shit ton of new Aurelia. Do you think she's broken? Do you think she was broken before the nerf?
I think that all of the nerfs she got were warranted, but I think that the thing that is underappreciated by people who haven't played the new Irelia is that there are actually a fair amount of ways to counter her ability. It's kind of like the old Irelia was actually harder to counterplay in many ways if she got ahead because you couldn't dodge her stun. The new Irelia, if she tries to land her stun on anybody who has any amount, because the thing when it first came out, I was like, that stun does not match that hitbox. It's fucking bullshit. But the hitbox is actually reasonable. It just doesn't match the animation. But I would say that the hitbox in terms of wideness is actually pretty fair. And anyone with any dash can avoid it unless you hide it in her ult animation, which is a whole other thing. But if you're just trying to stun someone with a dash straight up, they're pretty much always going to be able to dodge it. And if you ever miss your Q on a minion, if it doesn't kill or if you Q to the wrong minion or whatever, then you're just going to be useless until your Q animation comes back, until your Q cooldown comes up. So it's like her execution is not like, I wouldn't say it's as difficult as a champion like Riven's, but in some ways there's like less room for error, because if you mess up with like your Q, or you mess up with something else, or you Q to a target who gets unmarked in the middle of your Q or something like that, you're just going to be pretty much useless, because if you don't get all of your Q resets, you do nothing. That being said, her potential to wipe a team is still there, and probably there even more so than the old Irelia. And I think she's actually worse as a split push threat, but better as a team fight threat than she used to be. What do you think, guys? Having played against her.
Well, okay, so my experience with Aurelia is bot lane, right? So you get TP'd in on, shit happens, usually it goes pretty poorly, and, you know, it just straight downhill, right? I will say that she doesn't feel like she has, like, Katarina levels of mobility. And the ult is super disruptive for bot lane ganks, right? Because your ADC gets put in kind of a Camille situation where it's like, oh, well, I can't get away from someone who's higher level than me and is going to probably be more fed than me. And if I touch this wall, I'm not going to be able to shoot them, which is my primary form of damage dealing. So you're pretty much dead if she hits you with that. And the spade-shaped, what was the word?
Parameter.
And the spade-shaped parameter comes out around you, you're going to have issues, right? So I think that it's kind of, I've got a bit of a bias, and I'm aware of that, because I think her kit was very much designed for that play. Like, she's super effective at post-6 teleport plays. So, I mean, particularly on bot lane, post-6 teleport plays. So it's kind of like I only get to see or play against her when it's going to fuck me the hardest. And so I don't know that I can really give a fair impression, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, having played a decent amount of Irelia, her lane phase is ass pre-6. Like, you just lose pretty much every matchup. Like, even harder than Tryndamere. But no, she just gets fucked in every matchup.
To be fair, he didn't say Tryndamere was beaten by Aurelia.
Oh no, Tryndamere, Tryndamere is like one of Irelia. I think Tryndamere might be Irelia's worst matchup, because it's completely unwinnable if the Tryndamere plays it correctly. Yeah, but anyways, that's another thing. But no, her lane phase, having laned against a bunch of different shit, her lane phase is really bad, and there's not much you can do. The biggest advantage she has compared to the old Irelia is being able to farm from a distance, because she has 2 basic ranged abilities, which helps a lot with her being able to farm safely. They just cost a lot of mana. The main thing with her is just, like, if you're playing against her when she's doing the things that she wants to do, she's going to feel super unfair, like Katarina. It's like, when Katarina gets to do the things that Katarina wants to do, she's going to feel super unfair, because she's so mobile and she does a lot of damage. But the execution side on Irelia is just so much harder to pull off now than it used to be. That I think after this round of nerfs, I think she's going to be in a fairly balanced state, but we'll just have to see.
Cool. Aidan, what's your thought?
I just wanted to say that I think that Rye did a really great job in designing her kit. Not only did they remove the boring aspects of old Irelia, like healing on hit, true damage on hit, point and click stun. Her ultimate I thought was boring as shit, even though a lot of Irelia mains enjoyed it.
I did not. I honestly, I thought that was an ass ultimate.
I think that was one of the bottom 10 worst ults in the game.
I've heard Irelia mains saying that they enjoy the old ult more, and I'm like, how? The new ult is one of the coolest ults in the game, I think. But
did you explain to them that it's spade shaped?
It's a fucking.
You think that would help?
Parameter, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, like,
how could you not?
She didn't have parameters before. More than less, she definitely didn't have a spade-shaped one. I
guess the main thing I want to get at is that not only do I think that she can be brought into a balanced place because she doesn't have like unhealthy parts of her kit like true damage on hit and point and click stuns. I also think that she's more enjoyable to play and to play against in the fact that there's outplay potential. And I also think they added my least favorite mechanic into in the game properly, being damage reduction. I think that they're overusing damage reduction as an ability or as a mechanic. But I think they did it right with Irelia. It's like kind of akin to Master Yi's, where you're not moving when you have damage reduction, which I think is the only way that it's ever balanced. Like, look at every other damage reduction in the game. Like Annie, Molten Shield, Alistar, Unbreakable, Warwick, Primal Howl.
Oh God, Unbreakable can suck the biggest dick.
But you know what?
Fuck that
You know what I
ability.
mean? Like, all of them are every single one where you can move is fucked. Like, it's just not balanced for the game. And like your Gragas, or even like challenging Smite, even Ninja Tabby is damage reduction. All those
Fuck
are just
Ninja
bad
Tabbies.
mechanics in the game. But like, I feel like the only ones that are balanced are the ones where you're not moving, being Meditate and now Irelia's. So
Hey,
I'm at least glad they added the
Frost-
mechanic in properly.
But Frost, did you see that they took away 10 armor on Ninja Tabbies so that it's balanced now? They fixed it.
I mean, it at least makes it so it doesn't fuck top laners as hard, right? Is the main thing. I mean, it fucks
so that you
Tryndamere, I
don't.
guess.
So that Ninja Tabby's rush isn't the most optimal pickup in every single top lane matchup.
It's only
Wow,
optimal in 50% of the
I love it.
matchups.
Yeah, you just need to pick it up against all the champions that are actually hard to deal with, like Pantheon, Darius, etc., so that you can run super speedy and then still get fucked. But yeah,
All right, I think we've
That's,
gone to a bitching.
other discussion.
Yeah, but
What?
I guess what I wanted to get from that, though, is that I think that even if she is overtuned numbers-wise, I feel like she has a kit that can be balanced, which I'm happy about.
No, I think that's
More so than Zoe, to go back to that comparison.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
I mean, Zoe's fairly balanced right now, but her kit is still fucked. Like,
It's still oppressive, right? If she gets ahead, it's still fucking miserable to play against.
yeah. And, yeah, that's just a bad kit.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to
So-
touch Zoe. It would take 10 years for us to go over everything that's wrong with that kit, but whatever.
Well, we tried like several episodes to do exactly that. So just, I guess, re-listen to those if you're curious why I think that's bad champ design. But that being said, as far as Aurelia goes, so has the build changed at all? Because, I mean, she used to be the Trinity Force, classic T-Force Rush. And has that myth changed, or are you doing anything different?
From all the games that I've played, pretty much the most optimal build path, 9 games out of 10, is going to be Trinity Force Rush, defensive boots option, either Mercs or Tab Eyes, straight into Titanic Hydra, and then from that go straight into the Sterix Gauge. And though that's pretty much always going to be the best itemization options on her. It gives you a really nice chunk of HP, plus the Sterix Shield. Gives you a nice auto attack reset for bursting squishies. Gives you some better wave clear. It's just pretty much going to always be the optimal build path unless something gets changed or nerfed. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like her build's almost the exact same. I feel like the only item that you don't build anymore, like you used to build Spirit Visage almost every single game on Irelia. That's like the only item I don't see built as much, unless you're, again, just heavy AP.
Right. So I do want to back up a little bit because, okay, so Spirit Visage was built because of the whole, like, Aurelia has a shit ton of regen passively built into her kit before. And that's kind of, like Aidan was saying, that isn't the fun part of her kit, right? And good that they left that on the cutting room floor. But you did bring up auto attack resets. And I think that's an important thing that we really need to talk about, which it wasn't until I started doing coaching that I realized that people just didn't know or weren't really familiar with the idea of what an auto attack reset is or how to execute it. So could you describe that real quick for anybody who's behind the curve on that? If you know what an auto attack reset is and how to do it, you can go ahead and pat yourself on the back. Congratulations. Now do it in game. So
It's just basically using either. I guess the only item that really works as an auto attack reset is Titanic Hydra, but like regular Tiamat works in a similar way, but that's another thing. Basically, it's just as soon as you do a regular auto attack, if you have an ability like the best examples like Jax's W that also acts as an auto attack, you can auto and then or Leona's it's her Q, right?
yep.
That's an auto attack reset. Yeah, her Leona's Q. Any ability, Renekton's W any ability that works, not any ability, most abilities that work as an auto attack, you can cancel the downtime animation with your auto attack ability. So like if I were to auto 3 times in the early game, Ms. Jax would be like auto, 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 and that would be about the speed. But if I were to use my W, I could auto and then immediately press W as soon as the animation goes through, and it would be auto W, auto, auto, auto. So you get more DPS out faster. And same thing works with Titanic Hydra because it works as an auto attack reset. So you can auto Titanic auto, and then it works a lot faster. But I'm sure there's tutorials about it on YouTube if you look it up. It's a pretty easy thing to learn, but it's super important.
And on champions like Ezreal, right? There's just auto tech threading, which is a similar thing, but is not the same, right? So with Ezreal, like you use your Q as a mystic shot while your auto is on cooldown, and by the time the animation for the Q is done, you can auto again. Right? So a lot of people just fire the Q and they don't think, well, if I auto, then I Q, and then I can auto again, like right away.
And most abilities in the game can be used in the auto attack threading that Blake is talking about. Most champions have auto attack threading to some extent, to varying extents, but yeah, you should be able to do it on just about everyone. That's how pros do such fast combos a lot of the time and do so much more damage than you do in a game, is because they understand auto threading properly. And it's important on every role. Like, you might not think it's important on support, but in some ways it's even more important on support. You can ask Blake about that, because that's a big mistake that supports at LOLA make.
Well, we talked to a lot. I was listening to the podcast from last week when we were interviewing Ashley, and I had said you need auto Q auto with Leona to clear wards, and because I've literally told her that 1,000 times, I didn't think to go back and explain why of what I'm talking about, right? And so, for example, in that context, a ward has 3 hit points, and you put it down and you can pretty much count to like 1,000 or so before it goes invisible. So you have to get to the ward. If you tried to auto, that ward's going to disappear with 2 hits on it. You'll never get off your 3rd hit without some attack speed, right? So you auto, Q to do shield bash to take out the 2nd hit point, and then auto it again immediately. And that takes all 3 and instantly kills the ward. And you can do that in like half a second. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that's an auto attack reset. But the threading thing of what I'm talking about is like Ezreal was the best example I could come up with off the top of my head, is you just do an auto attack, shoot an ability, do an auto attack, shoot another ability, do an auto attack, shoot your 3rd ability, right?
Or Tiamat's an interweave as well. Like, that's the exact same thing, is right. You Tiamat doesn't reset your auto attack, but you can use auto attack, and while your auto attack's like resetting, you use Tiamat and then you can auto attack. It doesn't reset your auto attack cooldown, but you put it into optimize your DPS.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So
I was a Tryndamere main. I've mastered that skill, being able to interweave my Tiamat.
That being said,
so
doesn't Titanic, like when you upgrade it into Titanic, doesn't that make it an auto attack reset?
Yes,
I'm not sure.
No, it becomes a legit auto attack reset, not just an auto weave at that point. It is a true auto attack reset.
Okay, so
and I believe the only
clarity,
item that does that.
What's the difference?
An auto attack reset is an ability, or Titanic Hydra, because that's the only item that does it, that literally functions as an auto attack with bonus effects, either bonus damage or bonus something else. Like Leona's has a stun on it, Renekton's has a stun on it. It's got a bonus something on it. And an auto weave does not function as an actual auto attack. It functions as a spell generally, and you can use it in between your auto attacks in the same manner that you would with an auto reset, but it doesn't have the properties of an auto attack. It's just a spell generally.
Excellent. All right, so how does that impact Irelia? We talked about Titanic being kind of the chief thing that would do that. So how does that work exactly with Irelia?
I think her build path, I think it's a better build because it's very similar to what she built before. But Tiamat is better on the new Irelia because her wave clear is faster. Because I believe her Q does more damage now than it used to because your bonus magic damage also applies on the Q. So you can ramp it up your passive very quickly by queuing 10 minions and killing them. And Titanic is really good because it just gives you a lot more burst, which is what Irelia wants. Being able to just E someone to stun them, and then Q, dash to them, use your auto, then Titanic, then auto. If you're taking press the attack, which is what I mostly recommend, your Q, because it works as it applies on hit effects, it applies that stack of press the attack, and then your auto plus Titanic will instantly proc it for like a shit ton of damage. So it's really good for her in that regard compared to the old Irelia, because it was good on the old Irelia, but it just didn't really serve that much of a specific purpose. But it's way better now, in my opinion.
Sweet. Okay, there is one more thing I wanted to talk about in particular with Irelia, and that's the new stun mechanic, right? So I've heard literal opposite ends of the spectrum of everybody on Reddit talking about the stun mechanic, and like the first one that made me literally just want to end my own life. Somebody talked about how Aurelia's stun is garbage because it's only 0.7 seconds and therefore it's useless. True? Or nah?
It's pretty shit in lane. It's just that it's an AoE stun that you can stun multiple people with. So if you use it in a fucked up team fight, you're going to hit like 3 or 4 people, and it's actually insane then.
Yeah, it's very easy to, like, many abilities in League are super easy to avoid if all that you're trying to do is avoid them. Like hitting a max range Lee Sin Q on a target that is doing nothing but focusing on avoiding your max range Lee Sin Q is actually pretty easy. Same thing with Irelia's stun. It's like, if all that you're focusing on is avoiding Irelia's stun, it's very rare that she's going to land on you. But that's why I was saying that her team fight strength is a lot more emphasized now. And her split pushing is actually in some ways not as good, because in a split push scenario, all the person that you're against has to focus on is avoiding your stun, and you won't be able to kill them because you won't be able to get the mark and then be able to close the gap and get your Q on off of cooldown. But in a team fight, when everybody's focusing on 10 million different things, you can easily line up those 3-man stuns, especially with your ult. One thing that's interesting to note about Irelia's stun is that it's not geographically gated at all. And what I mean by that is that you can travel any amount of distance in between your first blade and your second blade in that 4.5 second window that you've got to cast them, and it'll put the stun in the entire area between them. I've been playing with Blake before, and I'll E before I enter the lane, and then Q to 2 low health minions, one of the melees and one of the range, and then cast my second E, and it'll cover probably 3,000 units of distance. It's fucking insane what you can do with it. So in that regard, her stun is pretty interesting. You can do a lot more. You could play with it a lot more creatively now than you could before.
Well, and the other bit that I've noticed,
is good.
Yeah, the other bit that I've noticed about that stun and dropping it, moving 1,000,000 yards, and then dropping the other side of it is most of the time the target gets no warning that you're about to
exactly.
drop
That's what I'm saying.
Stun. So
right, that's how you can circumvent the telegraph nature of it, is by them not realizing that you have already dropped the first part of the stun. But yeah,
so you just used the word telegraph and geographic in the exact same thought.
Because
I just wanted to point that out. We are a smart person's podcast.
This is the podcast for intellectuals, obviously.
Geographic. It's telegraphic.
No, you can't see my Rick and Morty tattoo.
Thought. If she had thought, she can't see a Rick and Morty tattoo. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, pulling a 6 chewable
doesn't even
figure
get that
income
joke.
here.
He doesn't even know what
Yeah,
a thought is. I bet he's too old.
he's way too old.
Well, THOT? Is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about?
Yes.
No,
You wouldn't understand, dude.
Know my meme. Click.
Oh dear God.
A thought
Be
is a
gone.
generative slang term,
What?
originally defined as the acronym of "that hoe over there." And now generally is used as a synonym for hoe or slut, especially in the context of trap music or modern rap.
Can we just hit on like the whole like team fight thing one more time? Like
Yeah,
I just
no,
think that
This is way more important, Frost. Come on.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like we've taught everything to everyone else, and it's my turn to learn. But that's over. So I learned thought, and now I am better for it? Question mark.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. Team fight, Aurelia.
Yeah,
Team fight, Aurelia.
I just wanted to add, like, we've obviously mentioned that her stun's, like, actually crazy in team fights, despite it being 0.75 seconds that, like, people say that is really bad.
Oh, but the stun duration does increase with levels, which you should usually be maxing at second, but not all
Doesn't
times,
anymore
but yeah.
since the nerfs.
Oh, does it? Wait, did they nerf
No.
that this patch or last patch?
That was the hotfix.
Oh, really?
It scaled up to, like, 1.2.
Does it really not scale at all anymore?
No, it starts at 0.75 and it ends at 0.75.
Then what the fuck? Never mind. I take it back.
Yeah. But I just wanted to mention that her ultimate is actually also crazy in team fights because it's pretty fucking big. Like, you throw it at one person and it just explodes,
It's
and
a
everyone just
spade-shaped
can't
parameter, dude. The fuck do you
Yeah,
expect?
dude. But
Oh,
it's
and
actually crazy.
So here's if anybody wants to play it, really, this is something that I found while I was fiddling. I'm sure I'm not the first person to do it, but this is something that I discovered when I was fiddling with her in the practice tool. You can cast your E, the first E behind, huh?
When did Aurelia learn to play violin?
I don't know, Blake. When did she learn how to play violin?
Well, clearly when you started fiddling with her.
Yeah. Anyways, I was saying important
Aidan.
shit before
Appreciate you.
interrupted for even more important shit. The combo that I found that's your best all-in and your best burst combo is casting your E behind you in the Fog of War, and then ulting the target and queuing while your ult is in midair because it'll reset it once you land. And then while your ult animation is still up, cast your second E inside of your ult animation. And by the time your E pops, you'll have already queued to the target, gotten the reset from your ult. They'll be stunned. You get another Q, and then you can get a third Q that won't reset. So you can like basically get three dashes on them instantaneously with that combo. It's really good, but yeah.
So basically like super Diana mechanics? Like
Yeah, it's very similar to Diana, for sure. Very similar.
Now,
very similar mechanic.
I mean, is it like realistically you're doing the same thing as like you're an AD version of Diana, but you have kind of like
it's
long ranged what's the word I'm looking for here? Long range disruptions and stuns and things like Diana has to go in before she can do her pull in shit, right?
Right. So one thing that's different about Diana is that, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but this is just how it feels when you play her. You can cast your Q and then your ult immediately, and your ult will get there slightly before your Q, but you'll still get the reset because it was like close enough, like 0.1 seconds off. It's not the same thing on Irelia from what I've seen. You have to wait for this target to be stunned before you can like dash to them in most cases because because it doesn't really have that grace period. It feels, at least from how it feels, and I could be hazy on the exact mechanics, like inner workings of it, but that's just how it feels. It's like you got to make sure they're stunned. So like if you are like in the middle of your dash while your stun like locks up, you can still get the reset, but if you reach them before the stun locks up or like simultaneously, you're not going to get the reset. So just be aware of that when
Quick question. Like one of the chief complaints about Aurelia right now is that her E animation doesn't match up with the stun. Is that accurate? Or you think that's a fair criticism, or has that been addressed?
It is a fair criticism, but the hitbox shouldn't change. The animation should change, is what I believe. Because I think the hitbox is fair. It just doesn't match the animation. What do you think, Frost?
No,
Well,
I
is
think
it-
that's
well,
fair.
First
I
off,
mean,
too big or too small?
hold on, I'll link a picture, like just for you guys to see it, like and the people. I guess it's just us, but like it's the animation doesn't match up properly. Like the hitbox is huge and the animation's pretty tiny.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so the animation is far, far too small for what the hitbox actually is.
I think it needs to be that big of a hitbox. That's the thing. Just maybe they need to make the animation a little bit more accurate.
Right. So like this
Yeah,
reminds
that's
me of
how I
like
feel about it.
old Lux Laser. Does that seem kind of like the same where you
Or
get hit
the-
by it on the edge and you're like, wait a minute, but the line was way the fuck over there?
Yeah, it's kind of like a reverse Sona. Like Sona, before she got the minor rework that she got, her ult hitbox was way smaller than the animation. So like you could get hit full on with her ult animation and not get stunned because it was like super stupid hitbox.
Speaking of super stupid things, whenever you said reverse Sona, I imagined a giant piano playing a woman. Like the reverse
Wow.
Annie skin, but other way. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Wouldn't reverse Sona be like a chick who could sing really well but is deaf?
Food for thought,
I mean, just throwing
I
it
guess.
out there.
That's all I.
But then again, if you're
Definitely
deaf,
food
how
for
could
thought.
you sing very well? Because like pronunciation would be an issue. I mean, right? Because you're deaf.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, just
sure,
throwing
Blake.
it out there. I mean, this is food for thought. But anywho, all right. So, is there any final thoughts you guys have about Aurelia?
Fuck. There was one thing that I was sitting on that is there any merit to playing her AP? Because all her ratios are really, really high.
I have not tried it, so I can't say whether or not it is. But
Dude, if you get
I don't think
640
I
AP,
can't-
your damage reduction is 100%.
Is that right?
well, Pog.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah, dog.
She does have 3
You
AP
said
like
that
high
like
AP
it's
ratios.
a good idea. Okay,
Her
what?
alt
how
AP
high are
ratio
the
is
AP ratios?
0.7. Her stun is 0.8, and her like damage reduction thing scales like the damage reduction with like 0.07, which is 640 for 100%, and the damage on the actual blast has a 0.4 ratio.
So she has a 2.1 overall ratio. That's actually really good.
That's not bad, right?
Well, and
No,
plus,
that's not bad at
if,
all.
If you think about how much damage her ult's gonna do, like it's not just the missile, it's also the spade-shaped projection.
Also, real quick, her passive does magic damage, which means if you build a magic pen, that's also impacted. So that would be good. I haven't tried it. I don't know that it would be better than playing AD, but
No.
it would definitely sounds like it's worth trying.
Yeah, it
But,
sounds like a viable cheese pick, though. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, against like burst mages or something
Well,
in
I
the
mean,
mid lane, you just
I'm trying
pop
to
your
think
W
of a
and then
scenario.
beat 'em
Does
up.
that? I mean, what's the difference then, really, between her and Diana in style? If they
Diana
both
doesn't have a
build
100% damage reduction ability.
Right, right. Have they turned Diana into like old Aurelia versus Fiora kind of territory, or like what's the?
Nah, Diana's got better burst damage than Irelia does for sure. I think that they feel kind of different roles. It's just like the specific way that they combo feels similar, but their play styles don't necessarily feel that similar, I guess.
Hey, Aidan, I'm just curious. Like, what sunblock do you use on your face? 'Cause,
Me?
SPF 15.
I think it's probably higher than that based on the stream picture. Because the rest of your body, the skin is so bronzed, and then your face is ghost white. It's almost as if it doesn't
Like, you have
belong.
ADHD.
Yes.
You like get distracted by random ass shit.
Oh yes, yeah. That's my entire life. Yeah. But yeah, no. I just I happened to catch that picture. And I'm like, Aidan looks quite swole, but he must not tan his face.
Christ. Oh, can we talk about her skins really quick?
Yeah, shoot.
Her skins all suck in game.
Hey,
that's
order the-
all you
order
really wanted
the
to
Lotus
add
is
to
up,
this
right?
discussion?
They all look like she has like spaghetti hair, like octopus tentacles.
Yeah, order the Lotus is okay, but Aviator does suck. I agree with you on that. And
Dude, and
Frost
it's
Booty
crazy.
is
Aviator,
terrible.
Aviator splash art, man, it's probably the best splash art in the goddamn game. But then in game, it looks like she has like an octopus attached to her head.
Can we get an inkling from Splatoon skin for Irelia? I think that would be awesome.
Well, okay, so Lulu is clearly the Splatoon skin. She
Well,
literally
sure.
has an octopus fucking hat on. Like, I
Oh.
don't know how you're...
So does Irelia's hair.
If they throw some googly eyes on that shit, I would be inclined to agree.
She even has aviator goggles, which kind of look like eyes.
Okay. You know what? I'm not looking at the splash art right now, but I'll just go ahead and agree with you. That feels like it makes this better.
It just tilts me that they made like crazy good splash arts for all of their skins, and they all look very alright in game.
Yeah. So, guys, we've talked a lot about Aurelia. Like, where do you think she fits in terms of like relative strength in the top lane overall? Like, I'm not saying like what's her ranking or like what's her win rate or whatever, but like if you're
Above or
gonna
below
throw-
Tryndamere?
Yeah. Let's use the Tryndamere bar, right? Like the Renekton bar, because Renekton's garbage and Tryndamere's way better.
I think that if you, once again, she's akin to Tryndamere in the fact that if you can get by her weak laning phase, she starts to smash dicks in, if that makes sense.
Right. So, I mean, is that an S, an A, a B?
I'd say she's A right now. Like,
Yeah.
I think that like a weak laning
I'd
phase
agree.
isn't bad in a meta where there's so many tanks, right?
How did
Yeah,
she...
I'd put her in an A tier. I think that her strength comes from the fact that her split pushing is passable and her team fighting is, for a bruiser, really good. Like, very few bruisers have as good of team fighting as Irelia does. Like, her ability to transition from one to the other is what makes her a good champion in my book. If she was only good at split pushing, I'd put her like B or C, but the fact that she has really good team fighting and like decently good split pushing, I think is fair to put her in A tier. But yeah.
How does she stack up against like your dominant top lane tanks? Like, you know, Ornn, Scion, those kind of like hard to kill mofos.
You just build corrupting potion and then get your ass beat for like 10 minutes and then it's fine. That's kind of it.
Yeah, they
Like,
don't kill you, you don't kill them. Like,
yeah, basically.
Okay.
And you can rush Tiamat if you want in those matchups and just not like have to interact with them at all. It's great.
Okay. So there is I did promise Frost that we wouldn't talk patch notes on this show because he has to do patch notes with Leaguecast, and that's just no fun for him, right? And now that I've got him on the show and we've recorded 52 minutes of footage and it's too late to go back, I do want to talk about one particular patch note. Then we'll round out the show with this. This is all we're going to talk about in terms of patch notes. We'll go from here, right? So, in a point counterpoint style fashion, let me describe the issue that I have, and then we will allow Frost to take the floor, explain his point, and then I will explain why I think that's retarded. Okay? All right. So, Riot made some changes to Scion in particular. They said, Scion currently doesn't sacrifice much damage in order to max E, Roar of the Slayer, instead of Q, Decimating Smash. In return, he gains strong ranged poke, which making him a dominant pick not only in top lane, but also mid in some matchups. There are times when it should make sense to max E first, range harass, using the slow to make Q easier to hit, but we want to make this of a less clear-cut choice. So they then nerfed his Q and reduced his total attack damage ratio from 0.65 to 0.45, scaling up into 0.65, and the full charge damage drops from 1.95 to 1.35 to 1.95 at max rank. Now, the issue I have with this change is not, I feel as though Scion did need a nerf. I still feel as though Scion needs nerfs, right? At think he's too strong, too safe, too tanky to do this kind of damage at that kind of range, right? So, and his win rate's very high anyway, so fine. Nerf seems justified. Aidan, are we together that far?
Yeah, he needed to be nerfed. I agree.
Sweet. So, where I get a headache with this nerf is they identify that his E is a problem.
Correctly.
Yeah, they correctly identify. I believe
Yep,
correctly
I agree.
identify that his E is a problem. And his
Agreed.
E is you max it first. You're not sacrificing anything to really do that in the current situation, and you do shit tons of base damage with his E. If they don't mention Comet, but most Scions that max E take Comet because once you hit the E, the Comet is a burst of bonus damage as well, right? And then because of that, they say it's making him a dominant pick in top lane and also mid, right? It's also making him pretty good support, turns out, right? So to me, if you have a tank who you want his signature move to be his Q, which is kind of the what makes him unique, that's what's supposed to provide him wave clear, that's what's supposed to provide him damage, rather than his E, like booting a minion, which is meant to be a combo move, that you should probably nerf what you say is a problem, right? So if the E's damage is too high and the E makes him oppressive, nerf the damage to his E, or change the E to where it's like more of a targeted slow, or it starts off as a stronger slow and then wears off quicker, or do something to transition from damage to utility. Because as a tank, he's got too goddamn much damage tied to that ability. Watch any, like, in support, for example, support Scion boots a minion into your ADC, and it chunks them to, like, kind of a ridiculous level. So I think that would have been a very appropriate nerf and would have directly addressed the complaint that goes on in their text block, right? Because at a baseline level, the text block says, E is a problem, so we're nerfing Q. Then that is such a backwards way to solve that problem that it doesn't make sense to me. Aidan, the floor is yours. Counterpoint.
So I actually think it's interesting. I think, first of all, I'm glad that they're trying different ways to nerf characters rather than just nerfing abilities. The way I view it, at least, is that Scion, your combo is you E them and then you hit a 60% slow or whatever the fuck it is, and then it allows you to hit your Q, which does fuck damage. Your Q scales from 60 when you fully charge it, scales from 60 to 300 based on rank, plus like scaling 135 to 195% ratio. Meaning that by nerfing it this way, instead of just doing a flat nerf to your E, you do a nerf to the Q where it scales back up to its old ratio, meaning that, hey, if I max E, my Q does very, very, very little damage.
Okay, so there is one thing I want to talk about there because it can be missed in the details. The Q damage nerf is total AD damage, not bonus.
Yes.
So it is your scaling damage. You don't have to build AD for this nerf to hit you. So that's that's an aside, because most people, actually somebody said, well, why is this going to affect Scion? He builds tank. And I'm like, well, no, it's total AD, so it would. Anyway,
I guess what I'm trying to get from it is I think it's a really, really interesting and smart way to nerf a character. You're kind of they don't want to, if they just, let's just say they gutted his E. His E is fucking awful, slows 20% and does very little damage. Now every single person maxes Q, right? Or actually probably the character's just dead because your E is the only reason, well, not the only reason he's good, but the main reason why he's a bully in lane, right? By keeping his E strong, it allows him to be a bully in lane, but it now it allows you to max Q, or makes it a less clear-cut decision to max Q, because you need to get that damage back for your combo to actually be meaningful in lane.
Okay, I mean, that's a fair point, but you don't need to hit the combo as it exists
That's
right
literally
now.
the point, though. Yeah,
But you don't need to. The damage on the E is so high.
Damage.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The base damage on your E is so high that you don't really need to hit the full combo. If you do hit the full combo, it's gravy, right?
Ugh. Let me look
So-
up Scion really quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Like
He
that
does
damage
mostly
is
physical. He
fucking
does majority
stupid.
physical. His E is magic damage.
Right.
What I'm trying to say
Look
is
at
like
the
throughout the
base
game, he does
damage
more.
on that ability.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is the game, if you go to champion.gg, Scion does 60% physical damage throughout the
Right.
game. Meaning that damage comes from his Q, maybe not his E.
Yeah, his ult is also physical damage. The shield blowing up, I think. What's that?
I'm really not sure what that is. It's magic damage. There you go.
Yeah, I thought that would have been magic, but that's not. That's
What I'm
Yeah,
trying to say
that's
is I
peanuts
don't
anyway.
think you're. Do you actually believe that people don't use EQ in lane? Because that's your main combo.
no. What my point is, I think EQ is used in lane, but what makes him oppressive is not necessarily the EQ combo, but the fact that he can spit minions at you from a mile away like a fucking sniper when he is a tank. Why should you
I
have
think-
ranged harass that's that effective with that high of base damage as a tank? That doesn't make sense. It's like if Mundo Cleavers did like 300 flat damage, right? That would be stupid.
But Blake, by nerfing his Q, if you're not maxing Q, he doesn't do shit until level 13 in team fights, like damage wise.
Right, but I understand that. But what I'm saying is the idea is that they're wanting to disincentivize people into taking E first, right? And you also recognize that E is the problem in terms of the damage. E is the problem in the terms of the oppressiveness in lane. So just nerf E, right? See, for me,
No.
like I said, I made this analogy before we started recording. I'm going to make it again. It's like I want to go across the street to this store to buy something. So instead of walking across the street and walking into the store and buying it, I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive to the edge of the block, make a left, go to the edge of the block again, another left, another left, another left. Then I'm going to park in front of the store, get out, and walk in. Just be
But, like,
direct about what your intentions are and go straight and fucking do it, right? Like
I think it's-
deal with that problem.
I think it's more akin to, hey, I need to travel to here. Am I going to take the train and pay way less, but it's going to take longer? Or am I going to take a plane? It's a completely different route, but I pay way more. Meaning, my fucked up analogy is instead of gutting E, which means you don't win lane because you can't poke with your E anymore, you're sacrificing E versus Q. Meaning, if I max Q, I have a weaker laning phase because my poke is less, but my team fights are stronger because I have my Q maxed at level 9 and I can actually do damage in team fights. Or I max E and have a stronger, more oppressive laning phase, but I don't have my Q maxed until level 13, so I suck in team fights.
Right. I mean, I understand what the trade-off is now. But what I'm saying is, like, just deal with the Q directly, don't touch, or deal with the E directly, don't touch the Q.
But like
shouldn't
that
happen.
literally just makes it so then people max Q and then your laning phase is weaker. That doesn't give you options. I like having options in the game. I feel like it's healthy to have options in the game.
I don't feel like it would really stop you from having options if you maxed E first still. Because you're maxing it for ranged harass. You're maxing it for the utility of the slow. The knockup is uncertain, and at best it's like large area wave clear, right?
That's like think of it
I
like
mean,
Fiddle.
that's-
Fiddle's probably one of the characters who has the biggest choices in his abilities, right?
Mhm.
Meaning you max Q and you get your fear, which is your like if the Fiddle's good because he has a fear with a 2.5 second fear, I want to say that it scales up to. You have W, which is your main sustainability, meaning if you're in 1v1s, your W is your number one ability. Or your E, which is your main harass ability. If you have that max, holy shit, you do 1 billion damage in fights. So being able to choose between those are clear-cut decisions. Do I need to CC people? Do I need to win sustained 1v1s? Or do I need to win team fights with AoE silence damage, right?
Right.
If they decided, hey, Q's fucked, we're just gonna make it so the Q only fears for 1 second at like say all ranks or something like that.
Mhm.
Well, then people only go W or E. If they say fine tune the other one, say like made E scale differently, then you have like, oh shit, even though like before I only got my E for silence, now it doesn't like it doesn't do like any damage. It does 0 damage. It literally doesn't do 0. It does 0 damage to level 5. Maybe I have to put points in my E even though I want my Q.
Right. Well, I think.
I just feel like it gives options. I love the idea of having options.
Well, and I don't disagree with your point, but what I'm saying is, this is a tank that we're talking about. This is a tank we're talking about that has an insanely high base damage on a ranged poke ability. There's no reason for, right? I don't mind options, but he shouldn't ever have the option to do that. Is I guess what
I feel
my
like
point is.
That's like your own opinion, though, right? Like that's
Well,
that's
no,
not like something that's defined in the game,
I guess we
right?
could boil it down to like that's like your opinion, man, and
No, but, like-
the shit out of it. But what
Where
I'm
in the League of
getting at
Legends
is,
rulebook says tanks can't have poke, though, is what I'm trying to get at.
name like some tanks that have poke.
Let me pull up the list of tanks in the game. Yes, sure.
I mean, like we could talk about what balances out those, but I mean, like Mundo's the only one I can think of, and his poke is way shorter than Scion's.
There's no real good way to find tank list of tanks.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to do. But I mean,
I tried to Google it. I'm like, this is awful.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, like it's actually kind of like a problematic mechanic to give him that kind of like the little like E breath where you push is very short, but if you hit a minion with it, it launches them like a fucking catapult, right? And I think, like I said, I think that's the problem is to be able to range poke somebody in a tank matchup where they can't really all in you that much anyway. We lost Michael. Yeah, if you do that, it's probably.
I'm gonna have to dip. My laptop's about to die, but I'll trust you guys to wrap things up here without me.
I'll tell you what, we'll just wrap it up right now. I think that's a good spot. So, anyway, all that said, like, I think you bring up a lot of really valid points, which is why I wanted to talk to you about this. I thought it would be a very interesting back and forth, right? Because the funny thing is, it is awesome for me whenever I argue with somebody, and then I'm like, yeah, I really do actually kind of see your point of view on that, right?
No, I mean, like yeah, you can't just shut down other people's opinions, right?
No,
like
it's
that's
really good. It's really good. And I thought that the Twitter discourse was good, and I wanted to make it into a more like fleshed out talking point, right? And I think we've done that. But yeah, no, I think it's more of like a fundamental. I don't mind clever changes, right? But to me, it feels like you should have just taken a bat to this to make it more healthy, right? If that makes sense. That, and it's a more direct way to solve the problem of why he's so high up in those ranks, right? But either way,
Yeah.
I think you brought a bunch of valid points as well. So, all right, we'll wrap up the show there. Michael, you still floating around here? You on Zencaster or your computer?
Yeah, but I don't think that my Zencastr is still going.
Is
so you
not.
might just have to cut the part out. Yeah, my
we'll
laptop.
just wrap up
decided to
without
kill
Michael.
itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That'll do it this week. So, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Wow, you have a really creepy sign off. It's like an old Southern woman. Bye.
All right, guys, I gotta dip. Gotta go call
peace
someone.
out, fellas. Let's stop the recording.
Yep.
Hey, how
Cool.
do you do the like re-upload where you DC? How's that work?
He has to reconnect just so it like uploads. He has to like click on the link and then it will upload.
Can you do that, Michael? Michael?
Oh no.
God damn it. He's already gone, isn't he?
I think literally all he has to do is click on the link and it will like finalize it.
Of course. That's all he would have to do. And he's not here.
I don't know. I'm glad that we had like a discussion about it because I think you have like really good. I think there's a lot of abilities in the game that need to be like nipped in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, a better example that I just thought of is like, look at Gallia right now. Here's a proposed change. Maybe his damage is just fucked and they need to nerf his Q damage. Or what if instead on his like Shield of Durand, like the damage reduction thing, what if they made that scale from like, it starts at like 30% and scales up to like 45 or something like that? It's something stupid. What if they made it scale from like 5% up to 45? Meaning that you might want to put or put early points into W, or else you have no damage reduction until level 13 or level 18.
Yeah, that would be better. No,
It's just like an interesting way to look at changes, though, rather than direct nerfs, right?
Right. And I mean, I don't feel like direct nerfs should be your go-to thing. Right? Like, oh, just smack a bunch of damage off, or just blah, 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 because it just makes the characters, like, non-engaging. It doesn't give them high points. You know?
Mhm.
And so that's generally a bad thing to do, I think, in the, like, grand scheme. Right?
Yeah.
But same time, like, I don't mind it when shit's just crazy out of line, right? When there's not a problem with the ability, but there's a problem with just it's too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of my experience with Scion does come from Scion support, and I will tell you that shit is frustrating as fuck, right?
No, I agree. I think I've said this a couple times. I think Scion is the most brain dead, oppressive top laner in the game right now.
Right. And I mean, the problem with Scion is, as support Scion even, if he just maxes E first and punts minions at you, it's quite hard to dodge. And you do about the same kind of poke damage as like a Zyra or a Lulu.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they can't counter engage on you. Because you're tank.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's stupid.
No, I agree. And I think if these changes didn't, like, if we see less, like, let's just say, like, 20% of people currently max Q on Scion. If that number doesn't jump to 40% or 50%, then they need to rethink what they're doing, right?
Sure. No, that's fair. That's 100% legit.
Like once again, if it stays like 20% or even goes up to only 30%, then holy fuck, we need to make a different change because we just nerfed his Q and then everyone's still maxing E and it's still oppressive, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.